So I was just like, you can look like an idiot. Like, you're just sitting at this table next to a dog, like, making kissy sounds, and the dog's not paying attention to you. Like, keep going, lady. Keep going. Hey guys, it's Molly here again for another video, for another good old Q&A. I feel like I haven't done one of these in ages, and this isn't any regular Q&A. No, my friends. Folks, this video is all about guide dogs. Like this big dog back here. He doesn't look like much of a working dog right now because he's sleeping, which is what he does 90% of his life, but he is a hardworking, big, strong guide dog. And I asked you guys over on my Twitter to send in any questions you have about guide dogs specifically, because I know there's always so many in the comment section, and I know you guys always love a video with Gallop in it, which I understand. I know half of you really only follow me for Gallop, so I totally get it. It's cool. That's like the real reason I won't make Gallop his own Instagram, because if I did, all of you would just like unfollow me and go follow him. I know what you're here for, and I'm okay with it. I've come to accept it. So over like 130 questions I think came in. It was crazy. So my assistant Mesa, who was hanging out, hi, she went through and screenshotted some of the questions, so we'll have my handy editor pop them up as I ask them. We'll have little classic jump cuts in between like I usually do with my Q&As, where she has read me the question and I'm then now just repeating it to you. Okay, let's get into it. I don't know what these questions are. I'm excited.
Sorry, I thought I had loaded their question, but that was not a question. That was a different screenshot.
Is that a
Okay.
text from your man, friend? Or?
Yes, it is. It's very.
First question is, has Gallop ever defied you for your own good or your own safety? I mean, I guess if I'm ever like, en avant, like walk on, go, move forward. Oh, by the way, my guide dog Gallop only knows French. Link below to the video about all his French guide dog commands and why he only knows French, as well as a video where he's like live guiding me in action, so you guys can check those out. But I'll be like telling him to walk on and he won't, and then I like put my hand out, and it's because there's like an obstacle in front of me and there's no way he can get me around it. So like, yes, but that's like not really what you're asking. I feel like there is obedient disobedience, which is where guide dogs are trained to not listen to their owner if they think it's not safe. Which I feel like one of the main times that would be used is if I'm listening to traffic with my ears, I've determined it's safe to cross, I tell him to cross, but he sees a car coming. He would not cross. So I can't think of a situation where we've been in where that's happened, but it is something that the dogs are trained to do, to not listen to you if it's in your best interest. How do you get Gallop back into work mode when somebody distracts him? I think this is such a great question, because unfortunately, no matter how many PSAs I do or the service dog community does, there's still always going to be those people who insist on petting the dog when they're in harness, or being like, oh, I know I can't pet them, but they make that like. I was telling Mesa the other day, there was this woman sitting at the table next to us at a cafe. I think I was out with my mom and Gallop, of course, and he's like laying on the ground, and she's making that kissy sound at him for like 10 minutes. And I didn't say anything because Gallop wasn't paying attention. Like he knows, like he's like, no, I'm not gonna get distracted by you. So he just continues to lay there. So I was like, it's cool, lady, you can make yourself look like an idiot by like sitting at a table being like, when my dog, see, he isn't even turning for me. Like, that noise doesn't distract him. So I was just like, you can look like an idiot. Like, you're just sitting at this table next to a dog, like, making kissy sounds, and the dog's not paying attention to you. Like, keep going, lady. Keep going. If they manage to distract him when he's in harness, what I'll do is I'll shake the handle. It's a metal handle that's attached to a leather harness. You'll be able to see it in the guiding video that I did. And when I shake that, it basically like reminds him you have your handle on your back, like you have your harness on. So I'll shake that and I'll say harness. So I'll just like say the word, remind him you are in harness. So it's like shake harness. And if he really isn't paying attention, then I'll say pas attention, which is my probably butchered way in French of saying pay attention. So harness, pay attention, and that's that. Third question is, how often do I have somebody approach my guide dog not realizing he's a guide dog and thinking it's just a regular dog? Literally every day of my life. I think I'm just forever going to be training my dog. A lot of people think I'm training him. A lot of people, because of how many fake service dogs exist now, like just regular family pets out wearing vests and harnesses, just assume he's like one of those regular pets that I take everywhere, or people will assume, yeah, that it's like a muzzle or like a training harness, like that he's just like a regular dog and I'm like an owner training him. Like all of other owners come up and be like, hey, where'd you get that like really cool walking harness from? And I'm like, it's not a walking harness, it's a guide dog. So yeah, I mean, every day. I would actually say it's more common that people assume it's not a guide dog, not a working dog, or not my guide dog, than people assume it is a working dog or is my guide dog. Next question is, do you have to go through the same process every time you get a guide dog as you do for the first, or is it different? So, I mean, it depends on the school, it depends on the person. Oh, he's like getting cozy. At the Mira Foundation, I did not, like in my case, I did not have to go through the testing process again. When I got my first guide dog, I went like up to the guide dog school in Montreal. I was there for like 4 or 5 days, something like that. Sometimes for people it can be up to a week. And they tested me and my skills to see if I was ready for a dog. And then I went back, that was in March, and then I went back in July and received my dog and trained for a month. Getting my second dog, I didn't have to go through the testing process again because obviously I'd already had a guide dog from them for 7 years. But I imagine if I went to a different guide dog school, I would have to go through some form of a testing process again. And then in terms of getting Gallop, they said like set aside the month. Some people left after 2 weeks. Other people stayed the full month. I stayed 3 weeks. So it kind of depended. And the way they just determine it is they tell everybody like set aside the full month. And some guide dog schools are only like 2 weeks period. Like that's all you go for anyways. Mira's a month. I feel like I need the month. I prefer the month. Or I like definitely needed those 3 weeks at least when I went and got Gallop. But the way they worked it is like some people left after 2 weeks because they like live in a really small community. They don't do much. They don't really travel. Their dog is never gonna face much public transit, big cities. Like their dog isn't going to face a lot of stuff that, say, me and some of the other guide dog users' dogs will face. So they had them leave after 2 weeks, and then the rest of us stayed for 3 to 4 weeks. I got to leave along with a few others after 3 weeks because we were kind of like a little more skilled, and then some of the other people who hadn't been like as honed with their guide dog skills stayed for the full 4 weeks. In that third week, like after the 2 weekers left, we started doing more like train transit, bus transit, busy streets in Montreal versus being more like outside in Saint Madeleine, which is where the school is actually located, which is like a kind of more farmland, rural area. So yeah, it depends. And again, every school is going to be different. Do you take Gallop on a date or do you use your cane? And if you do bring Gallop, what do your dates think of him? Oh my God, of course I bring Gallop. I almost never use my cane. Like, almost never. It's extremely rare that I will actually pick up my cane and use that over Gallop. And so, yeah, I would never consider bringing my cane instead of Gallop to a date unless Gallop was sick or for some other reason, like, couldn't go. Like, he was in surgery or he was sick or he had retired and I hadn't got my next dog yet. Like, something like that. It would have to be a big reason for me to not bring Gallop. So, yeah, I always bring Gallop, not only because that is my navigation, and I'm like proud to use him and I think he's amazing, but also in terms of like going on a date, especially if it's a first date and you've never met the person before, like you've met them online or something and you're meeting them in person for the first time, I prefer like meeting them with Gallop because he's a 90-pound big black dog who's a total suck, but they don't know that. And ultimately, like, if he needed to attack, he would. And so I feel safe with him there and people being like, okay, well, I can't take advantage of her because she's got this dog here with her, versus like me being this 4'10.5" blind girl with a cane. Like if somebody wanted to harm me or do something bad to me, I wouldn't feel as safe or prepared for that. So definitely Gallop is coming with me. He is not only my eyes, he is my security. Head of Security and Director of Cuteness is his title within my corporation. And he holds those titles very well. And I mean, every date is different. I mean, pretty much all of them. I've only gone on 2 dates where I showed up and the guy didn't know I was blind. So they're usually never surprised. Like they're usually expecting Gallop. They've usually seen pictures of Gallop, know he's gonna be there. A lot of guys that go on dates with me tend to like animals because obviously they're dating somebody who uses a guide dog. They should like animals. It's kind of a prerequisite to dating me. The odd person is kind of like indifferent, which, you know, as long as they don't dislike dogs, we're good. But yeah, I mean, I've never had a date react badly. to Gallop. I mean, would you? He's so freaking cute and soft. So this one's a super lengthy, wordy question, so you can just pause and read it here. The gist of the question is, the first part is, can you have a family pet while you have a guide dog? The answer is yes, but it's not preferred. Guide dog schools generally prefer you to not have another pet in the house while you have a working dog. Usually because pets have bad habits and aren't well trained compared to guide dogs or service dogs from proper training facilities. So when you introduce that dog into a home with a badly behaved dog, it's gonna maybe potentially learn bad behaviors. Sorry if I sound sick, by the way, I'm sick, so that's that. When I got Gypsy, I did have a dog, family pet Rory, who was highly untrained and badly behaved, and my family tried their best to get him under control, but ultimately, like, Gypsy did learn some bad habits from him, and we still had him when I got Gallop, and I told my family, like, under no circumstances can you encourage his behaviors in front of Gallop. We saw what happened to Gypsy. Like, she was still a great guide dog, but yeah, she, like, definitely learned some bad habits because they're dogs, you know? At the end of the day, they're well-trained dogs, but they're dogs. You know, I wouldn't let them feed Rory human food in front of Gallop, which they used to do in front of Gypsy, which means then I felt obligated to give her human food, which was definitely a bad thing to do, and I regret because it made her more, like, food motivated and foodie in public, which I would have to correct and deal with and train out of her again. So, like, yeah, it's definitely not preferred for schools. Like, they'd rather you don't have a family pet, but they're also not going to be like, get rid of your family pet. And then when it comes to retirement, the second part of the question was, like, when you retire the old dog and bring the new guide dog in, like, how do you tell that old dog that it's not working anymore? Every situation is going to be different, and every school handles this differently. Again, it's preferred that your old dog isn't in the home when you bring your new dog in. My plan is to give Gallop when he retires to my parents, who don't live with me. So he'll still be in my family, he'll still be in my life, but he's not going to see me working a new dog every day. But then again, like, every dog handles it differently. Like, if a dog is ready to retire when you retire them, they're kind of, like, happy to see a new dog come in and take their place. They're like, oh, thank God. Like, somebody else can shoulder the burden. I get to, like, be a relaxed puppy in my bed. But if the dog wanted to keep working but had to retire due to sickness or due to lack of, like, quality in guiding or stamina, that's when it's harder because there can be some jealousy issues, some sadness. Typically, a lot of schools will suggest you have a period between one dog retiring and receiving the next dog, like at least a month or two, but some people do work their dog literally, like will work their dog up till the day they go to get their next one. I don't think I could do that just for emotional separation. I feel like I would need that, like, time in between to emotionally separate from Gallop and his guiding before getting the next one, but to each their own. If somebody else says one of Gallop's commands in French, would he follow it, or does he only listen to you? He mainly listens to me. He will listen to other people if they're, like, really firm with him and getting his attention, but a lot of times, like, when he's off harness and stuff and my family or friends are trying to tell him what to do, like, telling him, like, assis, sit, like, he'll just look at them like, eh. He knows he doesn't have to listen to them. He knows I'm his master, I'm his mom, and he has to listen to me. But he also knows he does not have to listen to other people. So a lot of times, like, my mom or my dad or whatever will be like, Gallop, assis, assis, assis. And he's like, and then I'm like, Gallop, assis. And he'll, like, sit right away. They all get frustrated. They're like, God, he only listens to you. And I'm like, yeah, it's good. He knows I'm master. That's important. How's he with listening to you, Mesa?
He listens to me.
Yeah, Mesa's pretty...
I'm pretty firm.
She's pretty firm. She's not, like, mushy-gushy to Gallop.
Yeah. Like, he's definitely stubborn.
If you aren't me and you want him to listen to you, you have to really, like, get his attention and take charge and take command. Yes, I'm talking about you. This whole video is about you. Alright, this one is also a bit of, like, a lengthy, wordy one. But essentially, it's all about the bathroom, which I think is another really great question. Yes, I do use the accessible stall, which is sometimes within the women's bathroom. Sometimes it's a standalone washroom outside of the women's washroom. So, yes, I do have to use the accessible stall due to the fact that Gallop is too big to fit in a standard bathroom stall, which can be frustrating when all the small stalls are open and somebody is, like, in the accessible stall. And I'm like, I only have one stall to use and there's like 10 open ones and I have to pee. But yeah, we waited out. The odd time I've had to like tell Galp to like lay down in front of my stall if I like am desperate and there's no stall available, no accessible stall. So I'll like tell him to lay down outside of my stall and I'll go in, and he can like see me under the stall, but people don't know, and they like turn and they just see this like giant black dog like laying on the ground looking at them like, hey, welcome to the bathroom, and they're like, what? But yeah, we always try to use the accessible stall, and he does come in with me. It's a dog. I mean, it's not like he's judging me, although he's very funny. This is like a weird, awkward like Gallup habit. It's really weird. I'll like pee or whatever, and I'll stand up, and he'll sometimes like go and like look in the toilet. Like, what? What are you looking at? I peed. But he's like, oh, what you doing there? Like, it's really weird. It's really funny. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel judgment from my guide dog about watching me pee. He usually just lays on the floor and like doesn't pay attention to me. And how do I find the women's bathroom versus the men's bathroom? The Braille sign. I always just use the Braille sign on the door to read whether it's male or female, which is where A, knowing Braille is really handy, and B, accessibility is really important, because if I'm going to a public bathroom alone and they don't have that, I have to like ask a random stranger to help me find which one is which. How do you protect your guide dog's paws from pavement on very hot days? If it's really hot, I use booties. So I have like some neon green silicone booties. I have a video where he tried to wear them for the first time. I'm gonna link it down below. It's the funniest, cutest thing ever. So go watch that video of him trying to walk in boots for the first time. It's one of my favorite videos I've ever filmed because it was just so fun. He's so cute. But yeah, I put silicone boots or like hard shelled boots. I have a couple different kinds. So for pavement or beaches, like sand, and sometimes for like salt on ice in the winter, but he grew up in Montreal, so his paws are pretty good with the snow and the ice. Is there such thing as guide dog meetups? I mean, I'm sure there probably is. I know there's like guide dog groups that meet, like I know there's a conference in Ontario that happens, Ontario, Canada, where I'm originally from. There's a conference that happens every year where guide dog users come together. They talk about like legislation, the laws around guide dogs, training, all that kind of stuff. So they'll have like a 1 or 2 day conference. There's tons of Facebook groups for guide dog handlers. Fun fact, I was kicked out of one a few years ago. Whatever, not salty. I used to post in there all the time, and I loved the community, and I made like a ton of guide dog user friends in there. And then frankly, I think like a few of the people who ran the group got like salty about my career and kicked me out of the group. So whatever. I always say like my blind community is my biggest supporter, but there's like a small section of the blind community who it's like really judgmental towards what I choose to do, and that's like really hard. I'm one blind person and I'm representing myself, and I share as much as I can about the community to educate, but ultimately like I'm me and I'm not everybody, and I don't have everybody's opinion or experience. I feel like I can't be expected to like represent everyone and share everybody's ideas or thoughts, because I just know mine and my friends and what I've seen and noticed in this community. So it's hard like when there's like small areas of my own community that judge me. It's like, it really hurts, but I also know like so much of the blind community is so supportive towards me, and I appreciate them so much for that. And it's a community that I'm so proud to be in and be a part of, like both the guide dog community and the blind community. But yeah, that guide dog group that I was on, the guide dog handlers group that I was on Facebook, like was a huge source of support for me when I lost Gypsy unexpectedly. Link that video down below about how my guide dog died, and it was like my safe place for a lot of stuff, and it was really, really hard for me when I got kicked out of that group and they like blocked me from it. And a lot of like the friends that I had made in that group that I like added on Facebook, and like they would be like, where are you? Like, we miss you in the group. And I'm like, well, the owners of the group don't, but yeah, it's whatever, like it's fine. But there are like lots of Facebook groups, different Facebook groups. I haven't found any others that I've like joined that felt like the home that one was. Yeah, there is some conferences. Obviously, like you meet up with people when you go to the guide dog schools for training. And of course, I have blind friends who have guide dogs. So like sometimes me and 2 or 3 blind friends who all have guide dogs, or some have canes, like we all get together and we're like a little dog army. But yeah, it's pretty cute. You just see all these like dogs in harnesses kindly sitting there on the ground, like not disturbing each other, being like, yeah, man, do your thing. I won't distract you. And then they get their harnesses off and they're like, let's sniff butts, man. Final question, what distracts Gallop the most? And just some more info on distractions. So the things that distract Gallop the most are probably cheese. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, he's so obsessed with cheese. It's the only human foods he has are cheese, bananas, and peanut butter. And peanut butter and bananas, like, they don't distract him. Like, he's like, whatever. But cheese, even more than kibble. Like, cheese will distract him. That's one weird distraction. He is not very dog distracted. Like, majority of dogs don't distract him whatsoever. Like, they'll be barking and lunging and, like, trying to get his attention and pulling towards him, and he just, like, literally won't even look at them. I'm like, you're such a boss. Like, it's like he's trying to play hard to get. But for some reason, they'll be, like, the odd dog that he'll look at and be like, ooh. And I don't know, like, what it is about that dog, because, like, 99% of dogs, he's like, whatever. Like, doesn't even look. But the odd dog will distract him. And then I'd say, like, the biggest distraction is people who get up in his face and are like, baby, and, like, petting him and, like, that distracts him the most. Or, like, he gets really self-conscious, and you see this in the guiding video. If he knows people are standing close by and staring at him and talking about him, like, he's not stupid. He knows. And that will, like, he won't get distracted and, like, look over at them, but he might, like, give them a glance and then, like, freeze. Like, he'll, like, stop doing what he's supposed to be doing. So those are probably the things that distract him the most. And distractions are bad because he's got a job to do, and that job is to keep me safe. And if he's distracted by something, like a person getting all up in his face, and a cyclist comes and isn't paying attention and hits me, and Gallop wasn't able to pull me out of the way, that's dangerous, you know? So I always, tell the human if it's a human distraction, and I always correct him, and like I said earlier, remind him that he is on his harness. Rarely, like, a bigger correction is needed. Like, it's usually just the shake of the harness and reminding him, like, pay attention, you're on harness, and that's, like, good to go for him. The odd time I'll, like, kind of take his leash and just, like, give a little tug, so he's like, come. He's like, oh, right. And that's that. Like, that's how I keep him focused and in line. And yeah, I mean, it's life or death at times with a guide dog, He's making a lot of decisions for me, and it's important that he has all of his focus on making those decisions. Oh, and when people walk on his left, he's trained to have everybody always walk on his right or behind him. So if somebody walks on his left, he gets really distracted and, like, keeps looking at them and, like, walks really slowly. So I'll always, like, my family and friends know to always walk on the right or, like, slightly behind us. And then if somebody's walking on the left, like, even if I'm on a first date and the guy starts walking on my left, I'll be like, oh, sorry, for Gallop, like, do you mind walking on the right? He likes when people walk on the right. So that's one thing, and that's just from training. That's how they train them. So he needs to have, like, full kind of vision, like, it's like a distraction. It gets in his line of sight. He's used to having me on his right, so that's not a distraction, but when something's on his left walking, that's, like, distracting for him. So yeah, that's that. That was a lot of questions about guide dogs that I don't think I've ever answered before. I hope you guys found this interesting and helpful. There was so many more questions, so give this a thumbs up if you would want to see me do a video like this again, where I strictly answer guide dog related questions. And all those links I mentioned down below to keep on learning more about guide dogs and service dogs and my experiences. I love you guys so very much. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content like this. Hit the bell notification to be notified every single time I upload. It's all free. I mean, why not do it? You get more of this cute pooch. Alright, I'll see you guys next time.